Right. Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. My name is Jen R., and I am a recovered Al-Anon and will be leading this meeting. We want to welcome everyone to our Al-Anon Big Book Recovery meeting. This is a step seeker meeting that meets every Wednesday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We will study the 12 steps by using the precise instructions out of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous as they relate to us as Al-Anons. Let's get our meeting started. This is the original AA preamble written by the AA Grapevine describing the fellowship in 1940. We study the preamble with an open mind and open heart to consider how it applies to Al-Anon. This helps us to stay focused on the message of recovery the pioneers intended while observing the traditions in action. Through the actions taken based on the instructions of the basic text, we comprehend what the pioneers meant when they described the membership of AA, which is that they worked a program of recovery and they no longer drank. In our case, we no longer obsessed over the alcoholic. Through continuous action and study of these principles, the understanding of the value of the original preamble reveals itself. We ask for your humble consideration of our sincere admiration of the pioneers of Alcoholics Anonymous. The simple hope is that we of Al-Anon will grow into the same clarity and unity that birthed the original 12-step fellowship, because without them, after all, none of us would be here. The original AA preamble. We are gathered here because we are faced with the fact that we are hopeless over alcohol and unable to do anything about it without the help of a power greater than ourselves. We feel that each person's religious views, if any, are his own affair. The simple purpose of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is to show what may be done to enlist the aid of a power greater than ourselves, regardless of what our individual conception of that power may be. In order to form a habit of depending upon and referring all we do to that power, we must at first apply ourselves with some diligence. By often repeating these acts, they become habitual, and the help rendered becomes natural to us. We have come to know that, as alcoholics, we suffer from a serious disease from which medicine has no cure. Our condition may be the result of an allergy which makes us different from other people. It has never been permanently cured by any treatment which we are familiar. The only relief we have to offer is absolute abstinence, the second meaning of AA. There are no dues or fees. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. Each member squares his debt by helping others to recover. An Alcoholics Anonymous member is an alcoholic who, through the application of and adherence to the AA program, has forsworn the use of any and all alcoholic beverages in any form. The moment he takes so much as one drop of beer, wine, spirits, or any other liquid containing alcohol, he automatically loses all status as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. AA is not interested in sobering up drunks who are not sincere in their desire to stay sober for all time. Not being reformers, we offer our experience only to those who want it. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and on which we can join in harmonious action. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our program. Those who do not, started getting a call. Those who do not recover are people who will not where did it go? Will not or cannot. I think I'm missing a little bit here, but those who will not or cannot, right, follow this, be completely honest with themselves. Sorry, there's just a little bit missing in my script, but you may not, but the simple fact remains that it works, and we believe is our only chance to recover. I apologize. It looks like the printer might have printed something weird there. There was a vast amount of fun included in the AA fellowship. Some people might be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity, but just underneath there lies a deadly earnestness and a full realization that we must put first things first, and with each of us, the first thing is the solution to our alcoholic problem. To drink is to die. Faith must work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. In order to set the tone for this meeting, I ask that we bow our heads in a few moments of silent prayer and meditation, and we'll follow that with the Serenity Prayer. Okay? And I apologize for that little hump there. Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thy will, not mine, be done. I wish to remind you that whatever is said at this meeting expresses our own individual opinion as of today and as of up to this moment. We do not speak for AA as a whole, and you are free to agree or disagree as you see fit. In fact, it is suggested that you pay no attention to anything which might not be reconciled with what is in the AA Big Book. Great directions. If you don't have a big book, it is time you bought one. Read it, study it, live with it. Follow the directions in it and learn what it means to be an AA. Okay? That is the end of the preamble. Okay? A sponsor is anyone who's had a psychic change as a result of working the steps and has the willingness to work with others. For those looking for a sponsor to guide them through the steps, please stay tuned and have your pens ready to record phone numbers immediately after the meeting. Each Al-Anon group ought to be a spiritual entity having but one primary purpose, that of carrying the message to the Al-Anon who still suffers. This is our primary spiritual aim. Our job as a group is to provide people with a place to learn about and work the steps. It's been our experience that working the steps consistently provides us with a better, saner life. We consider all else to be an outside issue. This includes personal problems. The proper venue for sharing such problems is with the sponsor. This is, after all, where real recovery takes place and working the steps with the sponsor. We are just so glad we are all here and that we are all here because we are not all there. There will be a period of fellowship after the meeting if you have questions or concerns or you need a sponsor, if you need to check in or get current, or if you want to discuss other literature, please stick around for the fellowship. That would be a better time for these subjects. All right, so now each week throughout this month of September, starting with this first Wednesday, I'm going to be the speaker and I'll be reviewing 3 steps at a time. So this Wednesday today, I'm going to be looking over steps 1, 2, and 3, how they apply to the alcoholic and how they apply to us as Al-Anons. Next week will be steps 4 through 6. The third Wednesday will be steps 7 through 9, and the final Wednesday of the month, the fourth Wednesday, will be steps 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so hope that makes sense to you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in, and I'm going to look at the title page of my book. So I have the 4th edition of the textbook, Alcoholics Anonymous, and it says, just Alcoholics Anonymous, the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. So right away, there's a promise here, and there's some backing to this promise. So it's not just 1 or 2 people. It's not even, the first 100 anymore. Now we're looking at thousands of people who have recovered from alcoholism. So this is like the biggest promise ever if you're an alcoholic, right? Or this hopeless type, if you're an Al-Anon of this hopeless variety, right? That there's actually a way to have an ED at the end of this illness, which is really great. I have recovered, right? I'm not in recovery. I'm not white knuckling it. I'm not pulling, a little rubber band. Gosh, sometimes my words leave my head. I'm not pulling a little rubber band trying to, just not say anything to the alcoholic, right? Or for the alcoholic, they're not doing it. Just don't think about drinking. Just don't think about drinking, right? Just don't think about the alcoholic. Just don't think about alcohol. No, I've recovered. That means the obsession, right, has been removed. So what is that? For the alcoholic, the obsession to drink, right, or to think it's a good idea to drink has been removed. And for me as an Al-Anon, right, the obsession to meddle in the alcoholic's life, my obsession around what alcohol, the consequences of alcohol on the alcoholic, right? The loss of job or pay or, flirting with other women or, not coming home when they said they're going to come home, right? Whatever it is, I'm not obsessed over what they're doing or not doing anymore, right? And that's just such a beautiful miracle, but also a beautiful promise right here on this cover page, which is really cool. We look at the preface on page XI. It says, because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. So when I think of a basic text or a textbook, I'm often thinking about, I always think about math. And I like math. I taught math for a little while, and I always enjoyed my college math courses. And so anyway, I think about a course, and the professor or the instructor, right, tells you, okay, here's the book you're going to buy, and you go out and you buy it. Luckily this book is not nearly as expensive as some of those, right? This is quite a steal of a book here. But we go out and we buy that book, and we learn how to do some pretty complex math problems, but we start at the beginning. So if I don't know, simple addition and subtraction or multiplication and division, I'm going to learn those things first. Then as I, further along, maybe I'm going to learn exponents or word problems, right? I'm going to build on my skills here. And at the end, right, I'm going to put into practice, right? So maybe at my job, I need to learn how to do these things, right? I need to be implementing this in my work. So now I'm putting into practice this thing. So the textbook is a guide that's going to teach me how to apply these skills to my different situations, okay? And so is true for our big book, okay? And we call the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, this textbook, we call it the Big Book, right? And so the Big Book is a textbook. I'm going to refer to it in some way or another. I touch this thing every single day. It's looking a little rough around the edges, right, after all these years. Some pages are torn and missing, whatnot, but it's written all over. But I'm touching this thing, I'm using this thing, I'm referring to this every single day, because the answers to my problem, right, which is, we're going to learn more about my problem, right, but ultimately for the alcoholic, it's sobriety, and my problem is also, right, living without, intervening and, all that kind of stuff, right? How do I live without doing all that crazy stuff, right, that I was doing before? And so my answer to all my problems and to my problem, right, is in this book, okay? So it's a basic text, and it says there exists strong sentiment against radical changes being made in it. So I mentioned I have the 4th edition. That means there were 3 other editions printed since 39. I've looked at other editions as well, and I have some here at the house. And, I do read through it. I'm pretty familiar with the book. There are some wording changes here and there, but there hasn't been any kind of drastic change, like how or when or with whom to take a step. The number of the steps have remained the same, consistent, right? It's not all of a sudden, 15 steps or just 7 or whatever it might be. Excuse me, I just need a sip of water. And the reason is because this thing works, right? Alcoholism hasn't changed since the 30s, and the solution to alcoholism is the same as it was back then as it is today, right? And we read in the preamble, which is still true today, medical, right? The medical field, science hasn't come up with a pill or something, right? That gets rid of the obsession to drink, okay? To make an alcoholic a normal drinker, okay? Or regular drinker, non-alcoholic, right? Maybe one day they will, but still has not happened. And so the only solution, right, that the chronic alcoholic has found is not to drink. And then how do we not drink for good and all? And for us, right, we know that we need to not reach out to the alcoholic, not try to control them, not micromanage them, not tell them what to do, not throw shoes at them, right? We know that what we should be doing, all that stuff. But how do I stay stopped for good and all, right? And this book teaches us how to do that, because it's going to require a whole attitude shift, right? Everything that I used to think was important and me, myself, and I is going to have to be pushed to the side for something new, some new ideas, okay? So anyway, we don't make big changes to it because it works. The forward to the 1st edition on page XIII It says, we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. So I just, read that thousands of men and women, right? This is the first edition, more than 100, right? Seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we've recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person, and besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. So there's so much packed into here, okay? So the first thing that stands out to me, again, is that recovered, right? No longer an issue, okay? Obsession is removed. Amazing. For me as an Al-Anon, the obsession to intervene and try to sober up the alcoholic in my life or whatever it is I'm doing, keep him away, shield him from the alcohol and temptation, that obsession is gone. The obsession that someday somehow I'm going to be able to control and enjoy doing that stuff to the alcoholic, or somehow someday I'm going to reach them and they're going to join AA and everything's going to be dandy and rainbows and butterflies, that obsession is gone, right? It says seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. So a lot of times we see this body piece, right, in the alcoholic. So, they'll say something like, oh, you know what, babe, I'm just gonna drink like a lady, drink like a gentleman, whatever it is that they're doing. And we see that their body, right, once they start, they're just kind of gone, right? So they take one or two, and then all of a sudden they're on number, 8 or 9. Right? If we're counting, which we do, right? As Al-Anons, good Al-Anons, we're counting, okay? And so we see this body piece happen, and we're like, man, their body just takes it and takes it. I can't have 7 or 8 drinks, right, as a non-alcoholic. I'm going to be thrown up and sick and dizzy and who knows what I'm going to be doing, right? Blacked out, probably passed out somewhere. But they have this body that just can take more and more and more and more, okay? But what we don't really understand and what we have in common with the alcoholic as Al-Anons is this mind piece. And I've mentioned the word, I keep throwing around the word obsession because it really is what it is, okay? So it's like, I have an obsession to, put my hand on a hot stove, right, without it burning. And I try all kinds of different things, right? And, I'm growing my nails long. I'm freezing my fingers first. I'm using ice, whatever. I'm going to get burned eventually. I'm trying all these different methods. So this state of mind, right, this mind piece is really the obsession. And so just like the alcoholic, I have this obsession around alcohol and the alcoholic, okay? And the alcoholic has an obsession around alcohol, right? And so even when they say things, and they might earnestly say it, right, I'm never going to touch this thing again. I really want to do well at my job. I love the kids. I'm not going to do it. They make some kind of firm resolution. Their mind, just like our mind, is going to take us out. So if you can think about, the times where you said, you know what, I'm just not going to worry about him anymore. I'm just not going to worry about her. I'm just going to, cut my sister off. I'm just going to, cut my spouse off. I'm just going to, leave them, right? Or I'm going to block them. Maybe I'm going to unfriend them, on my social media, whatever it is I'm doing. And then, right, going around, everything's okay, fail. You know what? I'm wondering how they're doing. Gonna just gonna check. Gonna do a little check. Gonna just do a little quick drive-by. Just see how they're doing, right? So that's that mind. And for the alcoholic, right, they're stone cold sober when they make that decision, right, to take that first drink. Okay? So it's more a problem about the mind, right? And that's what I share in common with the alcoholic, okay, is that thinker, right, that just can't stop. It says the main purpose is to show them how we've recovered. Okay, the main purpose of this book is how do I recover from this seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Also, thank God it's seemingly, right? Seemingly means that it only feels that way. So if you're in the thick of your Al-Anonism right now with an alcoholic and you're just feeling like things are never going to change and you're always going to feel this awful and, why can't they and why can't I, it only seems hopeless. Okay, there is a solution here, and it works just as good for me as an Al-Anon as it does for the alcoholic. It also says that besides, we're sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. So there's over, a couple hundred anonymous fellowships out there. If we think of, Drug Addicts Anonymous and Sex Addicts Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous and Shoppers Anonymous and Compulsive Eaters Anonymous and just all these different, of course, right, alcoholics, but right, all these different anonymous groups out there, okay, for all these different things. It works. They use these steps in this program, and it works for them just as well as it works for the alcoholic. And the Al-Anon, right? So those of us who are, beautifully impacted, right, by the alcoholic in our lives, in a chronic way, right, where we just can't freaking stop or let it go or rub it off our shoulders like maybe our siblings can or our friends can or whatever, our girlfriends can do it, but for some reason we just can't let it go. It says our way of living has its advantages for all. So in the early days, the Al-Anon, right, the wife, typically it was the wife, right, the partner, the spouse, whoever, the loved one of the alcoholic would practice these steps too, would practice these principles and living by this way of life, okay? And it worked just as good for them as it does for the alcoholic, which is really amazing. So step one, because we're going to go over the first three steps. So what is it that I need to understand, right, about the alcoholic and about myself, right, as an Al-Anon? Step one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Okay. I am powerless over alcohol, just like the alcoholic, right? And my life has become unmanageable. What does that mean, right? That means for the alcoholic, right, they can't manage the decision to stay stopped. For me as an Al-Anon, I cannot manage the decision to butt out, right, of their lives. The doctor's opinion on page XXVIII says, we believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. Okay, there's a lot there, and who's saying all this stuff, right? So the doctor's opinion is as William Silkworth, or Dr. Silkworth. He was a little doctor that loved drunks. He helped thousands, tens of thousands of alcoholics in his day at Towns Hospital. He was not an alcoholic himself. However, he understood that there was this type of alcoholic, okay, and we can look more at the types on page 20, 21, type of alcoholic for whom other methods didn't work, okay? So there's this type, and we're calling it chronic type, okay? So it was about 10% of the people that he encountered, right? Just, they would go out, right? 9 out of 10 people would go out and they'd be fine, right? They would use his methods, they would be sober, and they'd go on to live their lives, right? Happy, joyous, free. But 1 out of every 10, right, alcoholics that left Dr. Silkworth's care would go out and take that first drink. And he's like, what is going on with these people, right? And so it's this chronic type. And we talk about this abnormal reaction that's happening in the body, okay? So what is happening in the alcoholic's body, right? Well, they're taking in a drink, and that drink is triggering what we call a phenomenon of craving. And now they want that second drink more than the first and the third more than the second, okay? I don't have that, okay? So when I say things to the alcoholic like, just stop, or how can you drink so much, or don't you feel dizzy? And no. Their life becomes more manageable. Their problems disappear and fall from them, right? They feel a sense of ease and comfort, right? They're not worried. Things just come to them, right? Problems that used to baffle the alcoholics suddenly, right, that don't seem to anymore when they take a drink. They feel more and more in control, okay? Their body is reacting much differently than my body, a non-alcoholic's body would. Okay, so that's important for us to understand that there's literally this phenomenon of craving happening. So there's a body component once they start. Okay? It says this type can never safely use alcohol in any form at all, right? So once they start, right, they're going to lose control. Okay? They can't stop. It says frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. So first off, frothy emotional appeal. And I always use the analogy of the froth in my Starbucks drink, right? I love it. I love the little fluffy stuff, right? And I drink it and it's like, oh man, I only have half a cup of coffee, not a whole cup, right? Because froth really doesn't have any sustenance to it, right? It's just like kind of airy. So my frothy emotional appeal, where I tell them, you know what, honey, please do it for the kids. Please just drink like a lady and just have one or two. Don't embarrass me at this event, or honey, just whatever, right? If you really love me, stop. Okay. I'm going to leave you if you don't, right? Okay. That's all frothy emotional appeal, whatever it might be. And even if the alcoholic really, truly loves us, and really truly wants to stop, they can't just based on that alone, okay? It has to be a message which can have depth and weight to gather their interest, right, to gain their interest. So what does it mean to have depth and weight? One person who used to be totally in their cups, right, in their alcoholism, who's no longer helping that alcoholic. So for me as an Al-Anon, I needed to hear that my sponsor drove across the country, chasing the alcoholic in her life, right? And she's not doing that stuff anymore. Okay, all that craziness, not happening anymore. Okay, that obsession, that just feels like, and it's so confusing, right? Because it's mixed in with love and lust and self and just all, it's all bundled up together in this thing. And so I needed to hear that someone who was doing all this crazy stuff is no longer anymore. Okay, that message came from a recovered Al-Anon to another Al-Anon. Okay, so I cannot, even though I understand this big book, even though I live by these principles every single day, I don't have the power as a non-alcoholic to help an alcoholic recover from alcoholism. And when I try, right, when I try to sponsor or try to do that, right, I'm really putting them in danger here. So it's really the best thing for me as an Al-Anon is not to try to fix the alcoholic, because this is telling me I can't. Okay? The best thing for me to do is to find a recovered sponsor to help me with what's going on with me as an Al-Anon. Okay? Once that happens, now I'm out of the way of the alcoholic, because the alcoholic, like myself, needs to have their own bottom, and I need to have my own bottom. Okay? I need to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. Okay? Of doing this thing over and over again. So why do people drink? Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it's injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the truth from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. Right? How normal was it for me to wake up every night in the middle of the night and check and see and try to call my ex and, are you safe? Are you there? Right? The alcoholic in my life. Okay. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. So when I'm not all up in the business, right, and I'm not recovered, right, I am restless, irritable, and discontented unless I can, right, just try this, honey. And it's even better if they listen to my ideas, right? Gives me so much sense of ease and comfort, right? And it says we see other people doing this with impunity, right? I see my mom doing this all the time, right? Her brother's sick, and she's pages and pages and pages of things that he could do, and she outlined and highlighted and you can do this and you can do that, and here's another option, and she's not a doctor, right? She's just other people can do this with impunity, right? She's fine, right? She's not worried about it in the same way, right? If I try to do that to someone, right, I'm going to be really, really upset when they don't follow my ideas. right? Because I spent a lot of time printing out a lot of pages on things that you should be doing. Okay. So, and other people can do this stuff. We can't. Okay. After they succumb to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm, I know what it says, I'm just flipping the page, firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of its recovery. Okay, so talking about this rinse and repeat cycle that we do. Okay, so for the alcoholic, they emerge from the spree remorseful often, right? Why? Because, maybe they, found themselves somewhere they shouldn't have been. Okay. Maybe they noticed that their spouse called them 200 times last night. Whatever the reason, right? They emerge remorseful. Then they have a firm resolution. Okay. So I always think of like New Year's resolutions. Okay. Hey, I'm going to drop 5 pounds this year, or I'm going to, volunteer more, or, I'm going to, I don't know, whatever, right? I'm going to save more money, right? I'm going to go on 2 trips this year, whatever our resolution is, okay? We do that stuff. So they make a firm resolution, like, I'm never going to drink at that bar again, never going to drink again, I'm not going to drink like that again, kind of stuff. So they have these firm resolutions. The problem is that they don't have the needed power or willpower, right, to stick to that resolution. So if I think about step 1 and I'm looking at powerlessness, right, I don't have, and I'm going to use the word willpower because willpower helps me to understand this, okay? It doesn't say this in the book. It just helps me, right, understand. So I don't have the willpower, right, if I'm an alcoholic, to stop drinking for good and all. Right? I'm powerless over this thing. And as an Al-Anon, I don't have the willpower to stay stopped. Right? I don't have the willpower not to say something, right? Just a little bit something, whatever it is, right? I just don't have the freaking needed power. Okay, so twice already I've read, right, that I have to have, here it said, experience an entire psychic change. Right before that, it said recreate my life. What on earth does a psychic change or recreating my life have to do with me being powerless? Right? Well, if I don't have the power, okay, if I keep doing the same thing that I'm doing, probably not a lot's going to change. Right? And years of doing this thing has proven that to be true. Right? As an Al-Anon, same with an alcoholic. Just keep trying, just doing the dance a little different, really not going to do much. I'm going to have to upheed, right? Not even sure that's the right word, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to have to change, right? Have an entire psychic change of things that are important in my life and how I'm running around. Okay. And so I'm powerless over this thing. My life is unmanageable. Why? Because I cannot manage that decision. Okay? And it's telling me, getting ready to tell me, right, about step 2, right? How do I gain power? Okay? It says once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. So, the person seemed doomed. He had so many problems. Suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. So, it's not necessarily control on our own power, right? But it's this obsession is gone, right? So we're no longer fighting this thing. I don't even have to think about it anymore. Okay? And it says the only effort necessary being required to follow a few simple rules. Those rules are these steps, right? And these spiritual principles, okay? Page 23 tells me these observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took that first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. So, darn it, I have the same problem as the alcoholic when it comes to the mind, and that's the main problem. So even though I don't share this body piece, and even though the alcoholic does react differently to alcohol than I do, a non-alcoholic, gosh darn it, it's still the main problem is the mind. Okay, so my main problem is my mind. Okay, crap. So how is my sick mind going to fix my sick mind? Okay, it's coming back to this power. I don't have the power. I can't fix it. All my yogas and churches and everything that I've tried, right, hasn't worked. 24 says the fact is that most alcoholics or Al-Anons, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. I've lost the power of choice. Choice. Don't have a choice. Don't have willpower. Okay? Powerless. Sounds very familiar. Our so-called willpower, there we go, here's willpower, becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink. So the alcoholic is without defense because they can't bring into their mind how horrible that last spree was, and I cannot bring into my mind how horrible I felt after the last time I did my crazy thing that I did with the alcoholic, okay? When this sort of thinking is fully established in an individual with alcoholic tendencies, he has probably placed himself beyond human aid. I'm powerless. I don't have willpower. And unless locked up, he may die or go permanently insane. Okay, so an answer here might be being locked up. Okay, otherwise I could die or go permanently insane. So kind of crummy choices here. These stark and ugly facts have been confirmed by legions of alcoholics throughout history. But, okay, step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Okay, so if I'm insane around this thing and I'm powerless, then a power that's not me can restore me to sanity, and I only have to come to believe it. I don't have to believe it in this moment when I first start, okay? I just have to come to believe, which really just means, is my sponsor seemingly sane, right? Did it work for her? If it worked for her, maybe, just maybe, and I always say it could just be a grain, like a little grain of sand in a huge big beach, right, full of sand. Maybe, just maybe it would work. That's all we really need. Page 25 says, if you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there's no middle of the road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we have but 2 alternatives. Okay, here's some alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could. Okay, tried that. It kind of sucked. And the other, to accept spiritual help. So, simple, right? I just need to accept spiritual help. Easy, I don't know. Because if I'm coming in here with a whole heaps of ideas, or maybe I think I'm already connected to this power, or whatever it might be, I only rely on this power in different situations, whatever it might be, right? I have all these old ideas. So could be a little bit of a challenge for the alcoholic or for myself. Page 43 says, once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink. Except in the few rare cases, neither he nor any other human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power. Well, crap, it's telling me that I don't really have a choice now, right? Page 45 says, lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. Okay? Is that obvious, right? I don't have the power. I don't have the willpower. I'm powerless over this thing. I'm not okay. Everything I tried to fix it hasn't worked. Okay, obviously, had to be a power that's not me. But where and how were we to find this power? That's a really good question. It says, well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object, oh thank goodness, its main object, right, main objective, is to enable you, me, right, us, to find a power greater than myself, right, yourself, which will solve your problem, will solve my problem. The main object of this book is to find a power greater than me that's going to solve my problems. Earlier I said this book is going to help me solve all my problems. Why? Because it's going to remind me that I am not in charge. It's going to teach me steps to get rid of all the stuff that's blocking me from this power. We're going to talk about that more when we get into the other steps. Okay. Page 47 says, we needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? So I might already believe that there's a power greater than myself. If I don't believe that, there's a whole chapter, chapter 4, We Agnostics, that helps me understand that. But even before I can read that, even before I, even know anything about these steps, really, do I believe, right? Or am I willing to believe that my sponsor, right, this recovered Al-Anon, has found and tapped into a source of power greater than herself that has restored her and removed this obsession around the alcoholic? Absolutely, I believe that for her, right? Absolutely, I did. I saw that she sounded, the opposite of restless, irritable, and discontented, right? She sounded at ease. She sounded comfortable in her skin. She can look the world in the eye, right? She could do all these things, and she wasn't cowering down. She wasn't obsessing or all this stuff, right? So I believed, right, that she had. So I was willing to believe that maybe, just maybe, there's a power that's not me that can restore me, right? It says, as soon as a man can say that he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. Okay, so I'm on my way. Great. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. How amazing is that? That if that's all I started with was that little grain of sand, right, on that beach of belief, and hey, it worked for her, maybe, just maybe it'll work for me, I can develop a wonderfully effective spiritual structure. That's that makes my eyes want to water. It's amazing that that's all I needed, right? I didn't have to, go out and search for God on a mountaintop or, study for years to get close and connected. I just had to be willing to believe. Step 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. Made a decision. So when I get off the phone, right, I'm going to make a decision right now when I get off this meeting, right, I'm doing this through the phone. When I get off this phone meeting, however I'm saying that, right, I'm going to, go have dinner with my spouse, right? That's my decision. Have I already had dinner with my spouse? No. Just a decision, right? Just something I'm deciding. I do need to take some steps to do that, right? I need to, make sure that dinner's prepared and, then sit down and actually have the dinner, right? But here it's just saying I'm making a decision. So really, I haven't done much of anything yet except admitted, right, that I was powerless, right? Willing to believe that a power not me, right, greater than me, can restore me. And I'm going to make a decision to turn my will, and my will is that willpower, my thinking, that thinker, and my life or my actions, right, over to God. Okay. Page 60 says, our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, that's chapter 4, and our personal adventures before and after. Okay, that's stories, Bill's story, Bob's story. Okay, make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholics for us, Al-Anon, and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism, or for us, our Al-Anonism. And C, that God could and would if He were sought. It makes sense. Being convinced, we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood it. Just what do we mean by that, and just what do we do? Yeah, what does that mean? Okay, so page 62 says, this is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter, in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, We are his agents. He is the Father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. Okay, had to quit playing God. How was I playing God? Well, right, I was trying to control what the alcoholic was doing, right? I was trying to prevent, I was trying to support. I was trying to hide things. I wanted, and truly, right, it's this idea that if she stopped drinking, if he found recovery, if only they did what I want, then everything would be just fine, right? So when we talk about step 3, okay, I want to open up my book to step 3. We're going to ask God for some things. And when I say ask, it means we're going to say a prayer. Okay, so I'm turning my book to page 63. I can find out more about what am I asking for. Okay, so it said I had to quit playing God. I might not like hearing that right now, right? If I'm new, I might not want to hear that, right? I'm not playing God. I just love them, right? I just want them healthy. That may be true, right? But we're getting in God's way because nothing's happening in God's universe, right? That's not supposed to be happening. Okay, and what we're doing is we're interfering with someone's bottom most of the time, right? So we're trying to get our will or our way, okay, rather than God's way. Okay, so on page 63, we're going to ask God for some stuff, and we do that through a prayer. And it's like, well, what do we mean by this? What do we do? Okay, many of us have gotten on our knees if we're physically able to, with our sponsor. And we say a prayer. It says, we are now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought well before taking the step, making sure we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. So it's interesting because we're only at the 3rd step and we're asking God for some stuff. But, right, this book was written written with the alcoholic in mind, and it's not asking God to keep me from drinking alcohol, right? That's not what this is saying. It's asking God to be with me and do with me as God would, right? It's not about what I want, okay? And many of us, myself included, wrote a little love note to ourselves from God when we started this process, like, I'm never going to have my way again as long as I live, right? And why is that? Because my way didn't work. My way led me to being sick, right? And in my illness. Same thing with the alcoholic, right? Their way led them to lots of consequences, but ultimately, right, being stuck in their alcoholism. Okay? It says, relieve me of the bondage of self. Not about alcohol, right? It's not about alcohol. Even for us as Al-Anon, it's not about the alcohol. It's not about taking the alcohol away. I can take the alcohol away from an alcoholic. Doesn't mean they're not an alcoholic, right? And that person, even if they don't have alcohol in their body, right, is still going to have a mind that says alcohol is going to relieve my problems. Alcohol is going to do this for me. Or, right, no thought at all. I'm just going to go out and have that drink. So it's that mind that it says yes, right? It's really hard to argue with your own mind, right? You're always going to kind of lose or win, whatever it might be, right? However you want to think about that. It says that I may better do thy will. What is thy will? God's will, not my will. Okay? Take away my difficulties. So I'm asking God for all this stuff. So yes, please do all this stuff, but why? So that I can bear witness to those I would help. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. So if God does this for me, right, if God takes away my obsession to chase and manipulate and control and micromanage the alcoholic in my life, if God takes that away from me, I need to repay God in some way. What is that? That's by those I would help, right? Bearing witness to those I would help. That means that I need to help God's children, okay? And we're going to get more into how we do that in the other steps. It's going to tell us, right? Step 12 is all about that. How do I help other people, right? How do I carry this message? In my community, right? In my home, right? At my job, right? To other Al-Anons. How do I do this? Okay? And it says we're going to think well before taking the step, making sure we're ready, right, to abandon ourselves. This is like an agreement or a bargain, right? You take everything away, and I'll do what you want me to do. Do I get my way sometimes still? Yes. Okay, if it's God's will. Do I a lot of times not get my way, but it's the way that God would have it, and things turn out just okay and just the way they should? Absolutely. Okay, sometimes way better. Right, the life I have today is way better than the life that I would have had I gotten my way. Okay, so I didn't get my way. What I thought was my way, who I thought I should marry, all that kind of stuff, who I thought I should have kids with, I did not get my way 8 years ago when I first came into the rooms of Al-Anon. Did not get my way, okay? And I didn't even get my way, I ended up changing my date. So now my date's like 7 years ago or whatever it might be, because I was still trying to get my way even when I was in here. So I'm not going to get my way anymore. But the really beautiful thing is God's going to give us a path that's so much better than what we could imagine, because my mind is finite, but God's is not. God's is infinite. Okay. So let's look at some third step promises before I have to kind of read through the rest of the, kind of like the ending part here. Here we go. Okay. So page 63, it says, when we sincerely took such a position, that's the position of, you know what? You got me, God. I'm all in. Okay? Do with me what you will. All sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Yeah. The person, right? The being, the thing, the whatever, however you want to call it, that I'm reporting to now is God, right? Being all powerful, He provided what we needed if we kept close to Him and performed His work well. So I need to keep close to God and perform God's work well. I'm using the word God. The book uses God, Spirit of the universe, higher power. It doesn't matter what the word is that you are choosing to use. It just has to be a power that's not me, right? Not my own power. Let's see. I just lost my spot. Okay. It says, established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves and our little plans and designs. I am less and less interested in myself and my little plans and designs. Am I completely selfless? Absolutely not. So I have a program that I work every day. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Why would I call someone who I don't know? Why would I talk to a lady who's crying, right, that I don't know, right? Because now I'm looking to see how I can be useful and contribute to life and God's children, right? And rather than just take. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we can face life successfully, as we became conscious of His presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. Big words, might sound a little cheesy to some of us, right? Remember, this was written in the 30s, but ultimately, I'm a new person, right, through the help of God in this program, which is really, really cool. Okay, so it is about the time to wrap up. Next week, we'll go over steps 4 through 7, okay? And those are really meaty, really packed with excellent information, and I hope you'll be able to join us for that. So I'm going to start closing up. The seventh tradition, every group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. This group does not have a payment structure in place and currently requires no overhead expenses. It's amazing. If you would like to fulfill Tradition 7, please direct contributions directly to the Al-Anon World Service Office by visiting alanon.org. For questions about this meeting, or if you are looking for a sponsor, please send emails to Al-Anon Big Book Recovery at gmail.com. So that's all one word. Al-Anon Big Book Recovery at gmail.com. Recordings can be accessed on YouTube by searching so like the @ sign, Al-Anon Step Speaker. Again, search Al-Anon Step Speaker in the YouTube search box. If you're interested in other Al-Anon meetings that follow the Big Book, please visit www.alanombigbooksolutiongroup.org. Our Big Book on page 164 says, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, but you obviously cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and for countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Now let's have a moment of silence for the Al-Anon who still suffers, followed by the Lord's Prayer or a prayer of your own choosing said in silence. Excuse me. Who loves us and keeps us sane. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Great. I'm going to go ahead and press end on the recording.